Hello.
Hello.
We're about a minute or two or something late, but that's okay. You know.
We are right on time. We never come late to our own things. Hello.
We're about a minute. Whoops! Wait a minute. Here now. Let's see.
We are right on time. We never come late to.
There we go. All right. We turn that on so we can see if anybody comes and types anything. So it's hot here. Summer is here.
You want some?
No. Of course I do, but no.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. The last chapter of Tripura Rahasya. But just in case somebody watches the archive of this and doesn't know what this is, here's a couple sentences from the introduction by Swami Rama. A great yogi, I know, Jeff, you're tired of this, but a great yogi does not belong to any caste, creed, sex, or ethnic group because he has already transcended all such superficial limitations. The knowledge that enlightens such an aspirant is called Tripura Rahasya. Rahasya means secret, so it's the secret of the one in the three cities. That's me speaking. The text by that name is one of the most significant scriptures in the tradition of Tantra Yoga. Hello, Hashim. Guten Morgen. I guess it's Morgan. Oh, yeah.
Guten Abend.
Guten Abend. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's still Abend.
Hi, Nelly.
Hi, Nelly.
Hi, Johnny.
Hi, Johnny.
I kind of like it when they say Swamis. I enjoy that. The me false identity.
The me false identity.
Swami enjoys that.
That must be the two of us.
Yeah. You are playing as one and I play as one. So add it to.
It's all a game.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the thing is, it's not supposed to be a thing. It's supposed to be a not thing.
Mm. Yes, which
anyway.
I get reminded of because I get a little smile out of it. And then I thought, oops, mind.
Oops. Yep. Yep. You catch
like
somebody in there catches it.
Yeah, just any of them.
Yeah. Yep. So, as we know, this is a story of the sage Dattatreya teaching the student Parashurama.
But today
is the end of the text. It's all going to come together now. All of these times is saying, please explain it to me again in more detail, and things like that.
I see a word.
You see a word?
That's the word summary.
Summary. This is called the resolution of Vasuman's questions and the summary of the scripture. Here it is. It all comes together right here in chapter 22. Right there. This is it. This is the whole thing. Hello, Anjan.
Yeah.
Can't seem to connect. We'll keep trying. Well, you seem to be connecting right now.
No, sometimes it shows up with a play button on it, but you just can't click on it, and it just doesn't happen. But then you can still type because it's still a post.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, we can see it. Anyway, after listening to the story of the Brahma Rakshasa, Parashurama asked his master Dattatreya with great reverence, Lord, what did that Brahmin ask after he was freed from the curse? And what was Hemangada's answer? Remember, that's referring to the last story that was told by Dattatreya. Kindly let me know. At least he's got a good attitude, Parashurama. He's got a sweet, kind, wonderful, delightful, something like that attitude, right?
Persistence.
He's persistent, but he's
very friendly.
But he's gentle or something.
Mm-hmm.
Kindly let me know. I am curious. It could not have been a mere debate At his request, the compassionate Dattatreya replied, Parashurama, that dialogue was profound and deep. I will tell you. Vasuman asked the prince who was sitting nearby. Prince, I want to ask you something. Can you please explain? In the beginning I received this knowledge from the sage Astavakra. After hearing you, I now understand how to attain the highest state of knowledge. How can a person who has known what ought to be known continue interacting with the world? It is like the coexistence of darkness and light. Prince, please explain the reason clearly. At his request, the prince spoke. Here it comes. O Brahman, your confusion is not yet completely removed. Better do it quick, we're on the last chapter. How can the knowledge identical with one's own self be negated by...
Nice that it worked out.
Got it going. How good.
Yeah.
How can the knowledge identical with one's own self be negated by worldly activity? Good question, isn't it? If knowledge can be negated by living in the world, then that knowledge is no more valuable than a dream. All worldly activity has its basis in knowledge. So how can knowledge be negated? Please tell me. In other words, it can't. Knowledge is that through which the entire universe is seen. Through sankalpa, firm determination, all worldly activities seem to appear within knowledge itself. Yep. When one becomes desireless and knows Atman, then the individual soul attains freedom from all bondage and enjoys happiness. O Brahman, therefore your question is invalidated by wise men. Then Vasuman said to the kind-hearted prince, Sir, this is true. I have arrived at the same conclusion myself. Pure consciousness is called pure knowledge. After attaining enlightenment and experiencing pure consciousness, if someone still has desires, he will still be deluded, exactly the way a rope can be mistaken for a snake. Mistaken identity is illusion. The prince replied, Brahmin, listen. You do not know how to distinguish confusion from non-confusion. Those who know the sky is colorless still perceive it as blue and use the words, the sky is blue. The fact that they see and speak this way does not mean that they have any illusion about the color of the sky. To the ignorant, it is confusion, whereas to the knower of the truth, it is not confusion. A realized person's knowledge cannot be the source of bondage any more than a dead snake can bite.
No, you're dead, you can't bite.
There is certainly a difference between the worldly interactions and behaviors of a jhani and an ignorant person. The jhani's interactions with the world are like images in a mirror. In the case of a jhani, the knowledge related to his dealings with the world is valid, while in the case of an ignorant person, it is otherwise. All of a jhani's activities are based on knowledge, obviously not meaning intellectual book knowledge. meaning direct experience knowledge. Because jhanis are constantly aware that all actions and interactions with the world are like images reflecting in a mirror, they are free from ignorance. Free from ignorance. That which is born out of ignorance can be dispelled by knowledge. That which is born out of ignorance cannot furnish the means of attaining knowledge. Listen to that. Let that sink in. That which is born out of ignorance cannot furnish the means of attaining knowledge. A practical way of saying that is, notice how hard we work to get our minds, our thinking minds, to understand this stuff that we keep looking at. We think I'm intelligent, I have college degrees, I have a high IQ, and therefore I should be able to understand this. But the real true knowledge, the knowledge of self or Atman or Shakti or Mother or whatever you want to call it, cannot be known by the mind. And yet we think that it can. So that which is born out of ignorance can be dispelled by knowledge, by that direct experience. That which is born out of ignorance, our thinking minds, cannot furnish the means of attaining knowledge. Doesn't mean that we don't use our mind. Surya, oh my, what a delight. It doesn't mean that we don't use our intelligent minds. We do use our intelligent minds and our worldly experience, like Surya does in serving his patients. Surya is the man who gave me my purple hat many years ago.
The topi.
My topi. That which is
he still
born.
has it.
I still have my purple hat.
Yeah.
That way, you probably even forgot about that by now. Hats come and go, but not my purple hat.
It has been here before in the satsangs, because I remember we talked about it before.
Yeah.
I will remember the name now.
Anyway, that which is born out of ignorance cannot furnish the means of attaining knowledge. That which is born out of ignorance is our common day-to-day conscious mind. Extremely, extremely useful out here. But ultimately, it cannot take us to the higher. It just can't do it, is the idea. That is why a diseased person has double vision. This world is seen as it is because of past karmas. All the experiences of the world come from one's own karmas. Therefore, as long as those karmas and their subtle impressions are not destroyed, interaction with the world continues. The moment all karmas are exhausted, there exists only pure consciousness. Surya, I'm wondering, tell me sometime, I've forgotten where you are. Are you in Oklahoma still, or you went to California somewhere, I think? But I was going to ask you, do you recall Anil and Achala single from the hospital and the college in India? And if so, do you... Anil is neurologist, Achala is cardiologist, and they are both living in the U.S. and have been here quite some time and are in Oklahoma. I thought you were in Oklahoma for a while anyway, so I'm just wondering... No, New Mexico, that's right. That's over there. Mm-hmm. You know, Oklahoma's here, New Mexico is over there. Old Mexico is...
He says yes, so I think he meant to know...
Yes, you know them and know that they are in Oklahoma. Anyway, just came to my mind. They were here visiting with us a month ago or a few weeks ago. Therefore, as long as those karmas and their
they connected briefly before living in Oklahoma. Somehow faster than this.
Before we left. Good. Well, don't lose connection. It seems to me, you know. We're doing some interesting stuff together you might find intriguing to talk to them about. I'll just leave it at that. If that teases your curiosity, then contact them.
That's very good, Sanji.
That was pretty sneaky, huh?
Yeah.
Hi, Johnny. Johnny's in Iowa, unless he moved to Oklahoma. Or is he in Missouri? No, Iowa.
I keep forgetting.
He's
Because he,
somewhere right about in there.
yeah. I don't know why it doesn't stick.
The moment all karmas are exhausted, there exists only pure consciousness. Thus, confusion can never arise from pure knowledge. Hearing this, the Brahmin asked the prince, "O prince, how can action possibly be performed by a jnani? How is a jnani able to perform actions when the fire of knowledge burns all karmas?" The prince replied, "Brahman, there are 3 kinds of karmas."
He's in Illinois.
Yeah, but he's somewhere down almost in Iowa, I think. Aren't you?
Well, if he's in Illinois, he's in Illinois. Not,
I know, but
not in Iowa.
But his name of his town is somewhere else. Something. What's the name of your town? I thought you told me you were near Iowa.
Near Iowa.
Yeah, but I mean like across the river or something like that, I think. Sluggish connection at work for video. Oh, Raj is there.
Hi,
I thought you were going to call me. I was going to type in your data for you in the website thing, Raj.
I'm not sure if he catches this because it's sluggish. But
I know it's sluggish, but I'm telling it to him anyway because we chat box texted and then I called him on the phone and all I got was his voice message.
because he doesn't always have clear connection. No.
He has a telephone.
Not
The
even.
prince replied, "Brahman, there are 3 kinds of karmas."
After satsang, he says.
Yeah, well, except we're supposed to go to the buck of stars, but maybe we can, or after that. Apakva, unripe; pakva, ripe; hadodita, destroyed before they germinate. For jhanis, all karmas are destroyed except for the ripe ones. You'll note, if you recall, there is one of the sutras in chapter 2 of Yoga Sutras says basically the same thing, that the yogi is actually trying to remove the samskaras that are yet to come forward. There's a sutra in there somewhere like that. And so when we do quiet meditation and we like to have the unconscious be there in its formless form, this is what we're doing. We're neutralizing samskaras before they have a chance to play out. After Starbecking, then, if not, then evening. Well, let's try it. If this is done, we can do it. If we're free, it'd be good to get it done. Then it's over with. Providence or nature, niyati, has appointed time as the ripener. The karmas that are ripe are called pakva. Apakva karmas are not yet ripe. The karmas that are performed after self-realizations are not binding. It reminds me of our mangoes that are still not ripe here. Ripe karmas are also called prarabdha karma. They are like arrows already sent toward their target. They keep moving toward their target until the force impelling them is exhausted. The experience of worldly phenomena continues for the jnani because of his resulting karma. But his response depends on the degree of his knowledge. So the karmas are there, but nothing happens, basically.
John is 200 miles away from Iowa, so that's not.
Well, we never know where Johnny is. Johnny is Johnny. You just never know. Yeah. The jnani still undergoes the results of his previous actions. His reaction to them depends on his degree of realization. For the lowest level jnani, the result of karma is instant and very clear. For the second level jnani, karmic fruits are insignificant. The highest jnani, however, remains unaffected by the fruits of his karma, for he knows that it is not any more real than a rabbit's horns. That is why the highest jhanis are said to be free from the bondage of karma. And let's note here, when we read here about 3 levels of jhani, instead of it being, three discrete degrees like freshman, sophomore, or junior in a college, for example, it's actually shades of gray, and there's many shades of gray between them. Prior to the performance of an action, the ignorant anticipate the entire sequence and its consequences. That is how they bind themselves with the strands of karma. The lowest level jhani makes an effort to contemplate the self, so his preoccupation with the results of his actions is broken from time to time. For this reason, the results of his karma are not very powerful. The middle level jhani experiences the results of his ripe karmas like a person in deep sleep experiences a mosquito bite. The discomfort is minimal when you brush away the mosquito. However, for the highest type of jhani, even the full fruits of his actions are like nothing at all, for they have been burnt by the fire of knowledge. For him, those karmas lose their binding power. Now, it reminds me of a story, and I'm reminded of this story as a yogi, not as a religionist. But if Jesus was a yogi, and if the story is true, remember what the way the storyline goes when he's hanging there nailed up on the cross. He says, "Forgive these idiots. They don't know what they're doing." So the karma is playing out, but he doesn't care. And that's this highest level of jhani. And we can use that as a story. We're yogis, so we can use any stories as symbolic stories to gain the wisdom. Like an actor performing in a drama who plays his role without being affected by the sorrow or delight he expresses on the stage, the highest jhani remains unaffected by even the full effect of his ripe karma. Therefore, his karmic fruit is as illusory as the horn of a rabbit. The ignorant do not have pure knowledge of Atman, therefore they identify themselves with their bodies, considering worldly objects as real. The lowest level of jhanis have realized the self and have also understood the unreality of the external world, but they lack sufficient practice and identify their bodies with the self, because their knowledge is clouded by the impurities of their past karmas. And note carefully the wording of that verse there. The lowest level of jhanis have realized the self. It just means there's still some stuff going on, and so some of the old habits still are there. It does not mean that the self has not been realized, but there's still some clouding. And now, to me, if I may say it like this, to be aware of this phenomenon here is very, very good news for the rest of us, because it's so easy to think, well, I know nothing because I still have some habits. Well, this is what this is saying. One of the early stages of enlightenment, of self-realization, is the direct experience of the Atman, of the self, which some, including as Swami Rama, have said, is the birthright of every one of us. It means we can have that experience, and yet there's still clouds. And so it does not mean, no, I have no experience. We don't have to beat up on ourselves like that. We know something. We've got some glimpses of something, and so what? The karmas are still playing out. That is why on and off they think the world is real. The world out here is so captivating, is it not? Then again, knowledge comes forward and dispels the darkness of ignorance. And suddenly they remember, wait a minute, there's more to truth than the world of mangoes. Thus, samskaras and knowledge mingle and make them reap the fruits of past actions. Samskaras and knowledge mingle. It's a nice word there, isn't it, mingle? O Brahman, knowledge mingled with samskaras has quite different fruits, and they are not equally effective. Desire for knowledge is good. Therefore, it makes one aware of the desire for those objects that create obstacles. These obstacles cannot obstruct the desire for attaining the truth. Under the influence of false desire, the seeker forgets the desire for truth. It happens, right? That false desire can be renounced with firm determination, and then he gains a pure desire to attain truth. After this, that powerful desire for obtaining truth never becomes an obstacle. In the case of a second-level jnani, the truth is never forgotten, and false knowledge vanishes. He performs his actions in the world while maintaining his awareness. This state is a state of the second level of adept. Now I will tell you about the seekers. When a seeker starts treading the path of Atman, his awareness begins to strengthen. When this awareness is completely strengthened, he can never forget his true nature. Without firm determination, the false appearance of duality cannot be removed. O Brahman, seen from the standpoint of a completely realized one, there is no difference between samadhi and the activities of the world. One who has attained samadhi is always aware of the truth. And obviously here the word samadhi is being used in its highest way of using the word samadhi. Not the lower ways of samadhi like we talk about sometimes in Yoga Sutras, where samadhi is a part of samyama, which is the means of doing one-pointedness to examine samskaras and to attenuate them and let them go with viveka. The second level of aspirant who has attained samadhi is sometimes not aware of his true self. When he encounters false knowledge, he becomes weaker. But one who is the highest level of jhanis remains tranquil at all times, because his awareness is firmly established even when he is not in samadhi. O Brahman, listen. Actually, for both the middle and highest level jhanis, the effects of the karmas are not very significant, because these jhanis have attained perfection. They see nothing except the self. When all their karmas are burnt by the fire of knowledge, then no karma remains to be performed. Like a magician, the things they do are just shows, put on for the sake of others. O Brahman, I am going to briefly tell you the secret. Here it comes, here's the secret. The highest level jhani's awareness is like the awareness of Shiva. There is no difference at all. This is the truth. Therefore, all the karmas of the highest level jhanis are exhausted. After Prince Hemangada's explanation, the Brahman's doubt was dispelled, and he was illumined within. He went to his kingdom happily. After this, both princes returned to their capital. Hearing this, Parashurama asked Dattatreya, O Gurudev, I heard these wise words from your mouth. My doubts are dispelled, and at last I comprehend the knowledge of the absolute reality. What do you want to bet there's still going to be some more to come, huh? All-pervading Atman is seen throughout the universe. O Gurudev, please summarize everything you have told me once more, so that I can keep the essence intact in my heart one more time. At his request, Dattatreya said, Parashurama, listen, I will give you the essence. Here it comes. The Supreme Mother of the universe is pure consciousness. Her very being is the experience of pure I amness. Through her power of sovereignty, she lets the impossible become possible, and thus allows this universe to appear within herself like images in a mirror. Listen to how she manifests this universe. Because of her essential experience of pure I amness, pure consciousness is all-pervading. Then, in the beginning, through her power of sovereignty, she lets herself appear to be twofold. One aspect of her appears as pure I-ness, what we commonly know as asmita, while the other aspect is devoid of the sense of self and appears as matter. It's only appearance. One appears to be I-ness and the other appears to be matter. Now this is a tantric view on Sankhya philosophy of Purusha and Prakriti. There was a guy on one of the Facebook posts yesterday and the day before who's been jumping all over me about this very point. Bless his heart, he's angry and he's not quite capable so far of being able to understand this thing that there is one, here it's called one aspect of her, of Mother, appearing to be I-ness, and the other appearing to be Prakriti, all other. It's appearances. There's only one reality, and it or she appears to split into two, so that one is the observer and the other is everything out here that is being observed. It's all appearances, but isn't it beautiful? It's what allows us to enjoy mangoes. I get to be an individual person eating my mango, and it's still all one. All Parashurama, the external aspect is called matter, and the aspect that appears as I-ness is called Sadashiva. Although the formless, absolute Swami Rama's name before he was Swami Rama around 1950 was Sadashiva, just for what it's worth for those who are curious about these things. He was initiated as Dandi Swami Sadashiva Bharati in South India. That's when he was given the Danda. Although the formless, absolute, self-existent, unmanifest sees the material part as something separate from himself, he still experiences it as the self. So this jnani knows that this is all appearances, but still he can eat the mango, so to speak. He, again through his Svatantriya Shakti, through his willpower, desires to manifest the universe and begins considering avyakta, the unmanifest, to be his body. And it's just a game. I am this. The I-ness says I am this. So our version of that, you and I, our version of that is the consciousness, the Atman that is my individual spark of consciousness, thinks that I am this body. Thinks that I am this body, not that body. Or something like that.
Takes into a different place.
Through his willpower, desires to manifest the universe and begins considering avyakta, the unmanifest, to be his body. I am this, and starts believing it. That's where we fall into the avidya. During his experimentation, Sadashiva became Ishvara. That which uses ego as its instrument is called Ishvara. There's a nice little friendly description of Ishvara, where when you look at Yoga Sutras and you look at the fifth niyama described as Ishvara Pranadhana, surrender to Ishvara, and it's translated, most of the Western people translate that and just automatically take that to mean the God of the Christians. the guy in the sky of the Western religions, and that's not really accurate. This touches on it a little more subtly. Sadashiva became Ishvara. That which uses ego as its instrument is called Ishvara. Ishvara, who is in fact the experience of the entire unmanifest world, then becomes threefold. Rudra, the annihilator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Brahma, the creator. Now these are processes. In Tatra, it's all Shiva and Shakti. That's all there is one. But by the appearances that this chapter started out with, because of the appearances of I-ness being here and everything else being there, there appears to be, and of course there is in the worldly sense, there is the process of coming into being for a while, and then dissolving and going away. That's what's being talked about here. There have been numerous Brahmas, Vishnus, and Rudras. That is what providence is. So it's not that there's one man in the sky called Brahma or Vishnu or Shiva. And even the story where some will say that Krishna is number so-and-so incarnation of Vishnu. You know, it's really about the process of being in existence for a while and then dissolving, and the being in existence is the one that's about Vishnu. And so we just all have to ponder that and do sadhana, and it makes more and more sense gradually. All Parashurama, it is like the image in a mirror, which is kind of magic. Nothing is real. Pure consciousness is always experience her perfect I awareness. It is immovable, but because of its ego or I-ness, it seems as though it moves. All Parashurama, you pervade your whole body and call it I. Aware of your different senses and limbs and actions through them, you feel you are the doer. Hi, Scott. Or came outward through Bindu. Yeah. Likewise, pure consciousness is the center of pure I amness, and experiences the entire manifestation, from the highest Sadashiva to the grossest elements. Pure consciousness, which is also the foundation of ego-centered awareness, is seen as the cause of illumination. You cannot experience, smell, taste, or touch sense objects while maintaining awareness of pure I. There's some awareness of I, but it's not pure. You can experience them only by identifying yourself with the senses, those other objects. The I-ness, the pure consciousness, has to identify itself with the senses so that it can experience those other things. It's just how it works. Just so, Sadashiva is identical with Brahma, Rudra, and everything down to the material elements. He is aware of his oneness with everything and performs all actions in the universe through his instruments, Brahma, Vishnu, and other deities, which saying deities is, of course, symbol for these universal energetic processes. Hi, Scott. Just as your nirvikalpa state of being is the very foundation of all, O Parashurama, that real perfect one is neither doer nor knower, neither doer nor knower. Likewise, the Supreme Consciousness, although the source of all, knows no duality and initiates no activity. The entire illusory universe appears in her. Through her supreme power, she seems to appear like the images in a mirror. Therefore, the universe is no more different from her than a reflection from a mirror. You and I and all perceivers are actually pure consciousness, as long as we do not identify ourselves with external objects. A mirror with many reflecting images appears to have many sections. A mirror with many reflecting images appears to have many sections, but when all objects are removed, the reflections also disappear. Then the mirror alone remains. So if I hold this mirror up there and you look at it, you can see all sorts of objects. There's a little table and a chair. There's all sorts of objects over there. But when we move the mirror away, then there's no objects. Then the mirror alone remains, and it ends up looking like this. There's no images in it. Now this is just the other side of the mirror, which is black. Likewise, after the appearance of duality is removed, pure consciousness alone remains. Just as an image is seen in a jar of water, meaning the reflection, similarly an image is seen in the mirror of pure consciousness. That state of freedom is pure consciousness, the absolute state. There is no sorrow in it. Therefore, it is full of everlasting bliss. Because that state is essentially bliss, everyone desires to attain it. The very nature of the self is joy. That is why all individuals long to realize it. Because of the presence of the self in the body is dear to all. Bodily joys are called worldly pleasures. In deep sleep, when one's awareness is not identified with objects, bliss alone is experienced. Consciousness is full of bliss, and everyone wants to attain it. The ignorant are not aware of the bliss attained from Atman. They think that happiness can be found in external objects. That is why they consider happiness to be different from the self. As long as one does not realize he is looking into a mirror, the images reflecting on it seem to be real. They just seem so real, don't they? There's all the objects and they just seem to be so real. There's even the knees of a ma tree there. I can't turn it quite enough to see a whole ma tree. Or yes, I can. See, there's the head of a ma tree. Appears to be real, but it's a reflection in the mirror. Now, where am I here? As long as one does not realize he's looking into a mirror, the images reflecting on it seem real. But the moment the reflections are removed, one definitely knows the mirror is pure. He also knows that the mirror is unaffected by those reflections. Likewise, a jnani knows that Atman alone exists in everyone and there's nothing beyond it. Isn't that it's a very physical but a profound insight, just to realize that I look at a mirror and the images seem real, but the light is bouncing off the mirror, and we see that and we think that we're seeing an object, but we're seeing a reflection. And when you contemplate on this, there actually is no reflection literally on the mirror. The mirror is remaining ever pure regardless of what reflects on it. You just have to contemplate on that. It's just a profoundly useful thing to ponder. Brings great insight. Likewise, a jnani knows that Atman alone exists in everyone and there is nothing beyond it. This universe appears in the self, just as a clay pot appears in clay, ornaments in gold, and statues in rock. All Parashurama, whoever claims this universe does not exist is mistaken. because the idea that it does not exist cannot be proven through any source of valid knowledge. The thing that's different is the form keeps changing, but it's not that it doesn't exist. By the negation of duality and the idea that it does not exist, there is only self-existent consciousness. So we're negating duality, and we are negating the idea that none of this exists. Very, very common to say all of this out here does not exist because it's Maya. Very common to hear this statement being made. But it stops short. To actually have the direct experience, we have to let go of all the images of duality, and we also have to let go of the idea that it does not exist. And somewhere after both of those are let go, then comes the realization of that which is existent, which is here called only self-existent consciousness, which witnesses both. How can it be proven that the universe does not exist? As a city is seen in a mirror, in the same way the whole universe rests in pure consciousness. This is perfect knowledge because it is not opposed by any opposite concept. Through its power of sovereignty, consciousness seems to exist as the universe, just as the image of a city appears in a mirror. This is the essence of the Scriptures. There is no bondage. There is no liberation. There is no aspirant, and there is no way of enlightenment. There is only one absolute self-illumined power of powers. She is seen as ignorance, as knowledge, as bondage, as freedom, and as the way of freedom. O Parashurama, it is essential to know this. There is nothing else to be known. In this way, from beginning to end, I have systematically imparted the knowledge of attaining truth to you. There's near the end of the Yoga Sutras too, there's a verse in there, a sutra in there that talks about the yogi coming to see that there is actually very little to be known. And there never was. We think there was a lot to be known, and we discover, but we have to go through all of that detail to figure it out for ourselves that there was never much to be known in the first place. And that whole text, the Yoga Sutras, ends with Shakti Iti. Shakti Iti. That's all there is Shakti. Nothing else to be known. In this way, from beginning to end, I have systematically imparted the knowledge of attaining truth to you. After realizing this truth, man never grieves. Having received the profound knowledge, if a man does not become tranquil, he is like a statue made of stone, and there is no possibility for him to attain knowledge. By hearing this once, knowledge is strengthened, but those who are not very sharp, how will they grasp it, even by listening to it 2 or 3 times? This scripture gives one freedom from all sins and leads to a state of tranquility. It is a source of knowledge. It removes all impurities. It purifies the mind. If it is contemplated upon, it gives freedom from the bondage of ignorance. If one contemplates that which is the self-existent Atman with a purified mind, he attains moksha, liberation. Otherwise, it is all bondage. That bestower of knowledge is called Tripura. Thus, chapter 22 ends happily with a summary of the entire scripture of the Tripura Rahasya. There we go. Thank you for visiting and playing. It's been quite a journey these last few weeks. I've enjoyed it a lot. Matri has enjoyed it. It's been fun. And as we do these readings a few times a week, We will start again tomorrow, I guess tomorrow night, tomorrow evening, and we are going through Sacred Journey, which is the title Swami Rama wrote on. This was actually pretty much the last book he wrote before he left the body, and it's a discussion about the Katha Upanishad. And the Katha Upanishad, once again, is another story about a teacher and a student, where the student is posing questions and the teacher is teaching. And the teacher in this text is Yama, who is said to be the first one who experienced death, and so he is a character called the Lord of Death. And the student is Nachiketas. So it's quite a journey. So we'll start on that and do a little chunk at a time and go through it. Okay? Okay, says Matri. Matri is back with us now. Did you notice she kind of took a little vacation there for a while? So thank you for visiting. Thank you for playing. Isn't this fun? So bye-bye. See you tomorrow maybe, or a different day. And remember, Tripura is the one consciousness that's in the three cities, elsewhere known as Turiya, the fourth state, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and Turiya. How do you meditate on Tripura? She is the consciousness that is in waking, she is the consciousness in dreaming, she is the consciousness in deep sleep. She is the one in the three worlds. She is all there is, and she is one with Shiva and Shakti are one and the same. All of which is ultimately found through the contemplation, but is finally resolved and found in the silence. And there's a little Om from Delhi. Yes. Thank you for playing again. Bye-bye.